Welcome back to Object-Oriented Programming with Java, and in this video we are going to be taking a look at threads and multi-threaded programming. So multi-threaded programming basically allows us to allows a single program to run multiple activities simultaneously, and this is very similar to multitasking, which we are all very familiar with. And multi-threaded programming is in fact a specialized case of multitasking itself. And threads are basically these activities that are run simultaneously. Java provides built-in support for multi-threaded programming. So there's actually a thread class which we can which we can inherit and write our own thread, and we'll take a look at that when we write a program on threads. But before that, there are a couple of concepts that I want to talk about. The first one is it's called synchronization, and what synchronization means is when we are running multiple activities, we need to take care that we are not running activities which conflict with each other. So consider an array list, or let's say any list, and let's say we have one thread right here, and this is our list, and we have the second thread right here. So suppose this thread is writing into the list and the other thread is reading from the list. So this becomes kind of a conflicting these become conflicting operations. So this needs to be taken care of, and the way Java takes care of this is using something called a monitor. So what a monitor does is let's say we do something like list dot get, and we are trying to get the ith element, and the other one is trying to do l dot let's say add or something. And what happens with the monitor is once this has entered the monitor, it doesn't let this operate till this thing has been completed. So this operation, this get operation, needs to be completed first, and only then will the other operation happen. So let's say we have multiple threads, let's say we have more than two threads. These operations are all queued, and it's only one after the other that these operations occur. And that's how the monitor works. And when we actually write threads, we can actually even communicate between threads. So that sometimes becomes very useful. The other concept that I want to talk about is a concept called deadlock. So a deadlock is actually a situation where there are two threads which are trying to do something, but it cannot possibly happen, basically because one thread is waiting for the other and the other one is waiting for the first one. So let's say we have one thread right here, and we have a second thread right here, and there are two objects, and let's say this one calls a method of this object and this one calls a method of this object. But then inside of this object right here, let's say we try to call some method of this object, and the other object in turn tries to call a method of this object. Now in this case, what happens is this method right here cannot happen until this has completed, and this cannot happen till this has completed. So this is an example of deadlock, because my thread 1 is waiting for some operation which my thread 2 is going to perform, and the thread 2 in turn is waiting for some operation that the thread 1 is performing. So this is called a deadlock, and deadlock is something that we need to take care of ourselves. So that's another case that we need to avoid. And when it actually comes to uh, writing our own threads, what really happens is, let's say I have a program here, and the thread class actually has a single method which is run. And what happens when we do something like a thread.run is that it goes into the run method that we have written here. Let's say we have a definition here. What it does is it goes into the run method, and the operations here start being performed one by one, but at the same time the program also moves on from this line to the next line in the program, and this keeps running as well. So what we've been doing till now is just one activity at a time, and that's actually also a thread, and that's called the main thread. So what happens there is that a single thread runs, and we can actually, inside of the main method, we can actually do something like thread dot current thread. That's a static method, so we can actually do something like this: capital T thread dot current thread, and this will give us the current thread, which is the main thread if we call this from the main method. So this is how threads work, and this run method is what we are going to be focusing on writing. So in the next video, we'll be writing a program where we create our own threads, give it a run method, and I'll show you how exactly multi-threaded programming works. So I'll see you there.